Okay, what's going on? So, this module is going to be all about recovery, right? So, whenever people think about getting healthier, getting in better shape, getting more fit, they think about all the things that they need to like do to work harder, right? We need to lift heavier, exercise more, eat better, drink more water, get more steps in, all these kinds of things. But there's another side of the equation that matters just as much, if not more, than all of those things, and that's going to be recovery. So going and working out, that's going to be something that we're thinking of that is beating our body down, essentially. Um, and recovery is going to be the adaptation or the time that we adapt to that stimulus that we provide in the form of working out, lifting weights, running, stretching, things like that. So, in order to adapt and get stronger, we have to recover from whatever type of training that we do that's intense. So you want to think about it this way. Exercise beats your body down. Um, Recovery is what builds it back up to make it stronger. So without adequate recovery, even the best training program is not going to work out. So two people doing the same thing, same workout program, one person recovers really well, other person doesn't. The person who recovers well is going to see a lot more progress, not get hurt, and those types of things more so than the person who doesn't recover very well. So the goal of this really is to help you better understand what recovery actually is, why it matters, what it isn't, and how to optimize it so you can perform better, feel better, and can continue making progress over the long term. So we're going to start that out by looking at this graph here. And this is just kind of like a visual representation of what's going on whenever you recover or whenever you don't recover. So we have this first dotted line, grade line here. That's going to be your starting ability. So this is, let's just say for example here, this is day one in the gym, right? You're going working out for the first time or the first time in a long time or whatever. The stress that we're applying to it is the workout itself. So from this starting ability, we kind of break or beat our body down a little bit. So through that training, and that's going to take our starting ability or our ability and make it worse than it was whenever we first walked into the gym. We're not going to be able to do the same thing. We're going to get tired. We're not going to be able to immediately repeat that same workout and do just as well. So what does happen after that, you go home, you eat a meal, you sleep, you take a rest day, whatever it is, and you recover from that. And then we adapt to this new ability. So this is just what happens every time you work out over and over and over again. And then if you do it enough and you do it long enough, then your body adapts, and it becomes noticeable and you're a new elevated version of yourself. So where this can be tricky if you're not recovering enough is let's say you go in and you do a really hard leg workout that first day. The stress brings us down to this lower ability. You go the next day, you don't give yourself time to fully recover. Let's say you make it up to about here. And then you do another leg day, drop that starting ability down even lower and over and over and over again. And then eventually you get to the point where this is where injuries occur. This is when you're like, oh my gosh, why am I not getting any stronger? I can't sleep well, all this kind of stuff. This is overtraining and we're not getting enough recovery to adapt from the things that we're doing. So really just kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. So what we want to make sure that we're doing is getting enough recovery through these different ways that I'm going to talk about next, to make sure that we are giving our body enough time to adapt and to reach this next ability. So before I get into the next part, I do want to talk about exactly like what recovery is not. Okay. So recovery is not really it's not cold plunges, it's not sauna, it's not any cold boots and all this kind of stuff, right? This is kind of the higher level stuff that 90% of the population doesn't need to worry about. This is for athletes that need to work out multiple times in a day, and things like that, right? So what we actually do want to do is prioritize the things that are the most bang for your buck, right? These other things take a lot of time and don't really provide that much of a benefit. So what we're going to go through is the things that fuel recovery and make it speed up that process, essentially. Um, Before I get into that really quick, one way that you can know if maybe you went a little bit too hard in the gym, is to, monitor how sore you are afterwards, right? Especially getting back from maybe a break, vacation, not working out for a while. Those first couple workouts back, you're feeling pretty sore. You're not going to be able to handle what you did before you stopped working out. So you want to make sure that you're not going from 0 to 100 first day back in the gym. And your body will tell you if you did too much, right? And if you're like super sore for more than like 2 days, then that's a good sign that you probably did a little bit too much, for where you're at. So, what fuels recovery? First one is going to be nutrition, right? Making sure that we're getting enough protein, enough carbs, and just calories in general to make sure that our body can rebuild itself up. Um, Undereating is going to stall recovery and muscle repair. And so, if we're not getting enough fuel for our body, the main goal of the body is to survive, right? Um, that is what it's going to use our energy and our food for first. If we're not giving it enough, it's not going to have enough to use in excess to help us recover, grow muscles, get stronger, and those types of things. So we got to make sure that we're eating enough. I know people are going to ask, like, okay, what if I want to lose weight? The goal with this and nutrition in general really is to be able to eat as much as you possibly can within the confines of what your goals are, right? So if we're not eating enough and we're working out hard, eventually we're going to see the results of that, right? Whether that's through injury or lack of energy or whatever that might be. And that's just going to translate to you not moving around as much. So we want to make sure that we eat enough to repair our bodies so we can still push ourselves hard in the gym and progress. Number two is going to be sleep, right? Sleep is the main time of your life that is going to allow your body to recover. Number one recovery tool. And an example that I like to use for this is it's an extreme example, but LeBron James, right? Elite basketball player playing in his 40s, and something that he does every day, and you can look it up. He's talked about it a lot. He takes I think like a 2 hour nap every single day from around like 1 p.m. And this just shows the importance of what sleep is for that recovery. He's in his 40s and still playing like he's in his 20s. Um, and again, he's an extreme example. He's really genetically gifted, but the rule still applies, and the concept still applies to anyone. So making sure that we're getting at least 7 hours of sleep a night, is going to really help us in the long run. Number three, hydration, right? Dehydration increases your soreness and your ability to recover. So making sure that we're getting, around at least like 80 to 100, if not more, ounces of water a day. And um, just making sure that we're keeping water with us most of the time. As long as you do that and you're drinking whenever you're thinking about it, then, you're probably going to be okay. And then rest days. These are always going to be important. Um, Especially important also for your nervous system to recover too, because that needs recovery too. But rest doesn't necessarily mean like sit on the couch and not do anything. There are other ways that we can rest that are still active in nature. So active recovery. And this is really just light movement that gets the blood flowing and helps stimulate that recovery process. Because really, the goal with recovery is to help get more nutrients and get more blood to those muscles and to those things that have been beaten down from working out. Um, so walking, yoga, stretching, foam rolling, any low intensity type of movement is going to be helpful. So even just like doing chores, gardening, different things like that, what that looks like is going to be different for everybody depending on how and how good of shape you are. So like something that is active recovery for one person might be a workout for somebody else. So just some things to keep in mind. Um, And then now we're going to go to the flip side of the of that equation and talk about things that delay recovery, which is really for the most part just the opposite of the things that help recovery, with a few different exceptions. So poor nutrition or undereating, already kind of touched on that a little bit. Make sure we eat enough. And if your goal is to lose fat or lose weight or whatever, um, we want to make sure that we're eating enough to be able to continue working out, but still um, be able to reach those goals and work on those goals. So the goal is always going to be with this to eat as much as you possibly can while still chasing those goals and reaching those goals ultimately. Dehydration, again, talked about this a little bit. Stress. So a lot of different types of stress. We have emotional stress, mental stress, physical stress, environmental stress. All these things take a toll on your body, right? We have sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight, and our rest and digest. Any of these different types of stress put us in that fight or flight situation. And that is going to make our body kind of down regulate anything that's not super necessary and focus more on that survival instinct. Um, so this is just really like an evolutionary thing. A lot of the stresses that we deal with today are not life or death, but our body perceives them the same a lot of the time. Less than 6 hours of sleep. I already talked about how important that is going to be. Excess alcohol, right? There's no healthy amount of alcohol. I understand that people have social lives and people like to drink a little bit here and there. So I'm never going to say like you should never drink alcohol because I know there's social health reasons for that. Um, but there is no healthy amount of alcohol, right? That's just something that needs to be understood. So when you drink alcohol, you don't get as good of sleep. You never enter that like deep stage of sleep like a lot of people think they do. You know, they pass out and don't remember waking up at all in the night, but that doesn't mean that the sleep was quality sleep. Um, and then lastly, too much volume and intensity and not enough rest. So just beating yourself up with reps and tons of volume and tons of sets and tons of weights over and over and over again, and not giving our body the time to rest and recover from that eventually is going to lead to injury and is eventually going to get you not being able to work out as much as you would like to. So we're much better off keeping the volume and intensity somewhat moderate, pushing ourselves on days where we feel good, and then taking a step back on days where we don't feel so good so we can stay the course and stay consistent and keep working out. So those are the big things. And then if you want just a few action steps to take home with this, you can track your sleep for the next 5 days, see how much sleep you're getting. Eat at least 3 solid meals with protein and carbs every day this week. Swap one rest day of doing absolutely nothing for something active recovery. So that could be yoga, that could be walking, any sort of light movement, doing chores that you need to get done. Prioritizing just not being on your ass, essentially. And then lastly, just reflect. What habit could you add this week to support your recovery and not just training wise? So, what food can we add? How much more sleep can I get? Different things like that that you can think about. So let's apply this stuff and let's get after it, y'all.